Boom. We're live. This is it. Doing it live. And this is another live episode of the Three Wave College Basketball Podcast. Still getting used to this whole live on the airwaves thing, fellas. I am Matthew Cox. I'm joined by two familiar faces, Kai McKeon, Jim Root. I am the host from the satellite campus down here in Naples. And I have a lot of Florida-based takes throughout this podcast today. So you'll sense a very biased theme from my takes here, Mr. McKeon. But I want to hear from you first, what's on your mind, something you want to air off your chest. To just kind of, this is an open forum for you to speak your mind. So we'll let you do that to start the show, Jim, you as well. And then we'll get into some down to brass tacks, talk hoop.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm doing fine, Matthew. Good to see you. Sorry, we're working from behind the scenes here, trying to get the stream up and running. There is a link on the YouTube channel. I'm not sure it's the link that we sent initially, Jim, but it looks like there is a link, which I'll be tweeting out for all the people to join us. Fun learning new technologies.
I know. But it is working, we think.
It might be. I can't.
Someone
out
there has a link that's working
as we go.
Yeah. Okay.
I got a link that works.
I'm tweeting live. I don't know if people are.
If you can hear us yell really loud, and we might be able to hear you to confirm that the proper link has been tweeted. So, and now it's been tweeted.
Yes, we should be good.
Let me see.
All right, we're good. You can host.
I'm going to hockey pass it back to Kai. Kai had so many profound thoughts he was about to spew. Kai, your turn.
I don't have many thoughts, man. I'm ready for this. I love our podcast. We just, we say what we want on this show. Darn straight. This is how we do it. Yeah. All right, go ahead. Go through the spiel, man.
Jim, the outline looks very, very familiar. We're going to round it up. We're going to tell you what we've saw over the weekend/week that was. We'll give you our very profound thoughts, three-man thoughts in that section, and then preview the weekend ahead. Before we do any of that, though, we must pay a tribute to Joe Paskov, aka JPD, aka the best producer in the college basketball intro and outro game. Please subscribe to this presentation on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Amazon, Auto Radio, Podbean, among other platforms where you can leave reviews, preferably of the 5-star variety. And if you leave a very well-written and eloquent review, actually, it doesn't matter if it's well-written or not, Kai will read it, and we will discuss it as he will do right now. Kai, lead us.
3 reviews this week. The first one from Brew City 77, looking for love in February. Thank you for the continued coverage. Well, you apparently, Mr. Engaged.
Well, no, I'm no longer looking for love. I looked for 32 long years.
You found it in a hopeless place, Matthew.
Yes, yeah, you sure did.
Chicago, I guess. Yeah,
a little dog named George. He says the best in-depth coverage of college basketball. It's not close. We love that. Love the field of 68 best bets. Excellent. Okay. He says, after 2017, 19, 20, and 22, Marquette fans are used to getting high on a team only to see them slide in February. I know you love the offense. He also tried to tell us that this offense was better than Creighton back in October. But from a neutral vantage, is their chase, aka Marquette's chase for a Big East title, sustainable? Well, heck, I say it is. Jim, hand up. Marquette's chase for a title is sustainable. I love this team. They're fantastic.
Yeah, Marquette's great. I think they can win the Big East. I think the defense needs to tighten up a little bit to win the national title, but you've got plenty of time to get there. We go through February, and even if you enter the tournament and you're like 50th and you play good defense for 4 weeks, you can get there. Just don't be like 100th when the tournament rolls around, and you'll probably end up an actual legitimate title contender. They're in a good shape for the Big East, given the schedule they have coming up, mostly home heavy for a lot of the big hitters in the league. They've played a lot of road ones already. So yeah, I think Marquette's got definitely a real chance to win the league. Sorry, I'm also behind the scenes trying to figure out why we went to a different live link than the one I planned. No idea why. Someday I'll figure it out.
That's fine, Jim. Kai, this Marquette team is not as good as the Buzz Williams teams, a couple of those teams actually. But in the relative context of this year's landscape, let me caveat, this is the best relative team Marquette's had. Yes.
This is the highest ranked team ever in KenPom for Marquette.
Relative ranking, this is the best. So I agree with that. Analytic rankings on that.
It does seem weird to call them better than Dwayne Wade's Final Four team,
or just like the Crowder team. Yeah, I mean, Buzz had some teams, man. The Elite Eight team was real.
It did. Hey, don't argue with that. They've never been number 1 offense in the country. Never. Number 2 for Tom Crean in the Final Four. Interesting. Next review. Great work, says Shawzy10. Appreciate the detail that the Weave puts into every pod. He's Canadian. There's not much coverage, but we help him feel engaged. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Shawzy10. We shall. And finally, so who shot the deputy? It's the best show in the college basketball realm. How much confidence should I, the reviewer, have in Isaac Brown? For Wichita State, the defense is humming, but guys like Craig Porter can be building blocks for a successful future. But I don't know if there's the same eye for talent like Greg Marshall had at Wichita. Matt, what are your thoughts on Isaac Brown for Wichita?
Yeah, torn. I kind of agree with his. I think I'm picking up what he's putting down here. I've never been a big Isaac Brown fan, but I think this team plays really hard. Like they always play really, really hard. And I think there's something to that. But in terms of, I don't know, organization, I feel like there's this groaning discontentness within that fan base just with how stuff is going. I mean, obviously coming off the Greg Marshall era, there's nowhere to go but down, honestly. So it's kind of a tough draw, Jim. I don't know. I'm torn on Mr. Brown. I like him. I thought I liked him, but I watched this team play. It's like I hate watching them play. So maybe I don't like him.
Yeah, offensively, they're very frustrating. And you just kind of look at what Ricky Council's been at Arkansas as like almost the number one option in the SEC to what he was last year when he was an important piece, but like kind of playing tug of war with Tyson Etienne for control of the offense. I would have thought last year's team should have been better offensively with Etienne and Council, concerning that they weren't. I think there's still jury is out kind of takes on Isaac Brown. I don't know for sure yet what to make. And unfortunately, that probably means we're going to have to be in limbo for another season or two.
Mr. McKinn?
You want my thoughts on Isaac Brown?
I thought there's another review.
No, that does it for our reviews. I don't think Brown's going to be around Wichita for very long. I think he'll get fired in a year or two.
Personal corner. Kai, why is it so cold in your basement? Oh, it's cold in Chicago, and this by association. It's cold in your basement.
Freezing in Chicago right now. And boy, it is cold in my basement. However, I just figured out that if I close the door of my room, it helps a lot.
Helps, insulates it. Yeah, it's good.
And you're in Florida, buddy. That must be really nice.
Yeah, it's hot. It's actually a little too hot. Walking George has been a problem. He's a cold-blooded pup guy, so he actually likes the cold quite a bit. Yeah, he likes to lay on the cold tile here.
Reptilian.
Yeah, right. You can see those scales on his skin. You can see the very clear similarities there. So astute observation. That concludes our intro section. Let's round it up.
Let's round it up, Matthew. Round it up indeed. We'll talk news and notes here in the world of college hoop. But before, we got to give a shout out to Homefield. And Matt, I almost want to make you do the read. I'm actually going to still make Kai do it. But
Kai's a great reader. I can do it, but Kai's really good at reading.
To adapt on the fly. He would not adapt well to being told to do this. But we got Big Duke collection coming out. So Kai, Homefield is appealing to Matt this week.
Yes, it is. The Duke collection is being released from Homefield Apparel, folks. If you don't know what Homefield Apparel is, boy, you're in for a real treat. They are the ultimate, the best collegiate apparel makers in the entire world. They have so many teams on their lovely website, homefieldapparel.com, schools of all sizes. We're talking D1 all the way down to small schools like the Colorado School of Mines. That's right. They have shirts for Colorado School of Mines. They're awesome. Every single shirt's awesome. They're soft. They're comfy. They have long sleeve, short sleeve, hoodies, you name it. And like I said, they're releasing Duke tomorrow on Thursday, Groundhog's Day, Bill Murray's favorite holiday. I own a lot of Homefield apparel. I do. And you can too. And you can get 15% off your first purchase from Homefield Apparel using our promo code 3MW, going to homefieldapparel.com and just typing in the code at the checkout. That's Homefield. Wear one for the team.
That's good.
Shout out to Homefield. Matt,
sorry, this is your section. This is your section.
Duke here, Matt. How much Duke gear are you going to
buy? I owe my dad's. His birthday was last week. Happy birthday, Pops. Father Pops. I need to. Pops. Father Pops. Little one there. Happy birthday, Pops. I need to get in some Homefield tire. They have the logos they're featuring in their teaser, Kai, very much in the same vein as a vintage Russell Duke jacket circa 1991 that I wear very sparingly around the house back home in St. Louis, but I've been scolded by my mother for doing so. So yeah, I want to kind of pair those two into a full ensemble for him.
Wow, that'd be awesome.
Glad to hear it. Big time gifts there. Hey, quick coaching news we should discuss. Rutgers is set to extend Steve Peichel again. And this is the most duh of does possible. They were a kind of a drag of a program before he got there, Kai. Now they are like an annual NCAA tournament program and kind of Big Ten title contender, although they are well behind Purdue. But I mean, they're right there, top 3. That's pretty impressive for a team that was always kind of a laughing stock.
Yeah, like the Arrested Development episode, when Michael talks about Anne's parents, or Egg, as he likes to call her. You got to lock that down. You got to lock that down. You got to sign Michael to an extension. Of course you
never
do.
let go.
Good job,
Steve.
Rutgers. Never let go.
Never let go.
On the other hand, perhaps our pal, Mr. Boeheim, should let go. He is getting even more crotchety in his press conferences, if that were possible. Going after reporters, this time Kai basically ridiculing them for asking why Benny Williams didn't play. Reporters should ask why a key starter didn't play. That is a totally reasonable question.
Yes.
Get off your high horse, man. Why is he so grumpy?
He's crotchety. He's like, really? Is that the most important thing right now? That the most important question? Yeah, your starter didn't play and nobody has any idea why. And you said you'd address it pregame. Come on, man. And he was like, you have a real attitude problem. That's what he said. He reminded me, Matt, did you ever have Mrs. Darcy in language arts class in high school?
I didn't have her. I remember her though.
Dancy, one of the two. He said
Dancy,
the attitude thing he said reminded me of her. He's basically an old language arts teacher at this point.
Yeah. I had a middle school math teacher like that, Kai, that before Harry Potter movies had come out, I just pictured Dolores Umbridge looking like this math teacher that I had. There you go. Very strict and condescending, and I'm the rules, you shall obey type stuff. Boeheim, I don't know. He's starting. No, he's not starting. He is tarnishing his legacy at this point. The team has no shot at the tournament. They're 1-8 against the top 2 quadrants. It's bad news for Syracuse right now. All right, moving on. Nothing new really in recruiting news. Syracuse got a 4-star shooting guard, kind of curiously, as we talk about Boeheim's potential exit from the program. He's still recruiting well. So, hey, getting pieces there. Will he be one of the 5 guys every year that plays, or one of the 8 bench-warming scholarship players? We'll find out.
Yes.
Good luck to 4-star shooting guard Elijah Moore of the class of 2024, still 2 years away. So we won't see him anytime soon. Transfer news, very little to address, but Matt, your boy Winston Tabbs has exited stage left from the East Carolina program. We had such high hopes for him, but injuries and then clearly not really syncing up with the new coach there, Michael Schwartz. Seems like a new scenery could be the best for both him and the team.
He will be awesome at some point in time. I don't know if that's going to be in college or for an NBA G League team or or a team in Poland. I think Winston Tabbs is going to make an impact, Kai. I don't know when, but he will. And I'll be there to say I told you so when he does.
Yeah, I'll just
nice ball player. He's awesome when healthy. He just has been healthy. Just a chronic injury guy. It's a shame. He was awesome when he started out at BC.
G League would be a leap for him, going from the backup on the 222nd best KenPom team to the G League. We'll see. Injuries and suspensions. This is more of an active section this week, fellas, as we get into February. But not all negative news. That's the great part. We do have some injuries, but it's kind of positive with the spin. Mike Miles hyperextended his knee. I thought for sure it was ACL as I watched it. His weight was way out over his legs and it looked bad, but apparently the MRI came back clean. No ACL, no MCL, unknown time frame yet, but not season ending officially. Matt, after Eddie Lampkin survived a scary moment that was reported incorrectly at first, why is TCU jinxed? And can we get these guys back on the floor and let them make a run, please?
Yeah, it's unfair. I still think they can't even I think Miles is going to have to probably, labor through this when he comes back. But God, we saw last night against West Virginia. I know it's West Virginia, caveat there, but they're still good enough to make a deep run even if Miles is out or absent. But with Miles, the ceiling is all the way high. So I'd like to see him back.
West Virginia went up a spot in KenPom yesterday after losing by 4 to TCU.
Yeah, that's some of the context not captured there. Not knowing that 2 of the best players of that TCU team didn't play. West Virginia is a top 20 KenPom team, so if you're able to beat them up basically 7-10 the entire second half, rather impressive performance from TCU. My boy Shahade Wells, I've been beating the drum since the offseason, actually starting to look like a legit piece. Dixon said he's starting to look like what they thought when he came over. He missed last year with an injury. Matt, I guess Shahade Wells is my Winston Tabbs, and it seems like that's going better than your Tabbs.
Yeah, you're better than me. God, that's fine. Next year, Winston, Winnie.
The other injury worth mentioning here, Zach Fremantle is out for a month-ish. We'll see, with a foot injury. Key front court piece for Xavier. Kai, how does this alter the Musketeers' outlook going forward?
I think it alters it a bit, Jim. He is their highest usage player. You could argue he's their best player on both ends of the floor. They're going to miss him, but hopefully he'll be back for the NCAA tournament. They should still be competitive in the Big East, stay afloat. Hopefully a top 4 seed still should be in good shape.
Isn't he bad on defense? I thought Xavier fans always make fun of his defense. X-Men people, please.
I mean, this year, kind of everyone's been bad on defense.
Yeah, they've not been very good on D. I mean, been fine on D. They've just been an absolute powder keg on offense. So.
He's 64% from 3 this year.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
That's like the year Derek Williams went number 2 for Arizona. He was like 16 of 29 from 3 on the season. Everybody's like, "Whoa, he's an elite shooter." Like, well, let's relax a bit. Curious how that works, because Xavier has very little depth in the front court. They haven't been playing a lot of depth. So surviving a month without him, maybe you get Deontay Miles to emerge, who knows?
Yeah.
Or you have to play a lot of small ball, which would only help the overs that Xavier has been on with their, like Matt said, powder keg offense and shaky defense. Positive news, fully positive news here, guys. Justin Moore is back from his Achilles tear.
Yeah.
Happened last year in the Elite Eight as they punched a ticket to the Final Four against Houston. He was unfortunately not able to participate then. I wasn't sure if he would make it back this year, because that can be a 12-month injury. But Kai, he played 31 minutes in his return. It was not like he was eased back into the lineup at all.
No.
So it seems like Villanova is ready to make a push, or going to try to at least.
Yeah, I hope so. He played a lot of minutes. Like you said, didn't play well. He had like a 79 O rating, but gosh, to be expected. You can't just be thrust back into the Big East against a tournament team, no less, and forced a big role after missing so much time. So he'll get back in the swing. We'll see what Villanova does. They're kind of like auto bid territory right now, but yeah, we'll see. Glad to see him back.
Yeah, I believe they're under 500 overall. So
they are.
It's 10 and 11. Like, can you get to 31 games in regular season? Can you get to 17 and 14? And you're like, hey, we went 7 and 3 with more in the lineup. Like maybe you can make a case. It's going to be an interesting one for the Wildcats there. Also worth mentioning, Pat McCaffrey, back from his mental health hiatus, trying to get everything sorted out there, has played pretty well in his return. Iowa in particular, Matt, has played awesome, scoring like 180 points in 2 games. Are the Hawkeyes all the way back? How do you feel about them now?
90% of the way back, I think, is my answer there. Defensively, they're still the same old Iowa, I think, with a little more, a little tougher on that end, but it's the same kind of Iowa story that we saw. I think they got a little bit overvalued in non-conference, right? I think dominated bad teams. Still think they're really good, but they're not like the juggernaut we saw in non-conference, but they're also not the disaster we saw lose to EIU. They're probably somewhere in the middle.
It's the third worst Iowa defense in McCaffrey's tenure.
It has slipped.
Third best offense, or third or fourth best offense. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Last 5 years, top 15 offense every time, and outside of the top 70 in defense. That's fairly consistent. It's wild because that's over many different types of players. So,
right. Yeah.
I guess that's just kind of a Fran tradition at this point, but good to have him back. Other random news and notes before we get into We've Saw That. The Big 12 won the SEC Challenge 7-3. Matt, I would say rather expected here, given the depth of that Big 12. SEC solid, but they got wins with Tennessee, Mississippi State in overtime against shorthanded TCU, and Mizzou against, I'll say it, shorthanded Iowa State. No Caleb Grill. So, this was closer to domination by Big 12, and not super surprised by it.
Hot take here. I actually have a lot of hot takes on this podcast. I'm just going to kind of
I love
channel my inner Skip Bayless today. Yeah, less pure substance and rational reasonability, but more hot take stuff here. I think that was more a function of the SEC just isn't that good. Big 12 is awesome, but that was more the SEC is just not that good.
Oh, okay. I'll push back. Big 12 is awesome. They're awesome. SEC good.
Go through the SEC teams. Just like kind of pick through them. Like a book.
Title contender Tennessee, title contender Alabama.
Get past those two. Right. Past those two.
One of those teams lost. Mizzou is awesome.
This doesn't work now because, Matt, you're making this case now that they're playing each other. And you can say, oh, this team lost.
I know.
You needed to make this case during non-comp.
You're right. I came too late. I think, Jim, putting them against each other is what revealed their warts. So if I could time travel, I would have said that. But I think in the tournament, I'm going to cash in on this take.
Well, right, the tournament's crapshoot. Come on. ACC was brutal last year and won a billion games in the tournament.
Or were they brutal?
Yes. I think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, the Big 12 is great. That is one of my 3-man thoughts. We're going to dig really into the Big 12 and start to sort through that more. So more of that coming. Shout out to Brevin Galloway of Clemson, who went viral with a hilarious post-surgery video he posted to, I believe, his Instagram.
Yes.
Seemingly coming down off some, additional supplements to his system, some drugs probably in there, but talking about how his balls flared up and he needed surgery and he's back in good shape now. And I don't know. We hope he's back in the court soon. It seems like this was a crisis averted, and we can all laugh at it now at this point, which is good.
It is good. I remember a video of Brevin Galloway, random throwback to when he was the face of the New Balance unveil at Boston College. I think Boston College was one of the first New Balance school endorsements. Kai, you're a shoe guy. You should know this. So he was like the front of it. It was very weird. It was like, New Balance isn't that cool, is it, for basketball? And he was kind of trying to make it cool. It's not cool.
Yeah, the NIL company that got a hold of Brevin Galloway, that after this, they made shirts for his video. One has him on the shirt, and it says "The Nutty Professor," hilarious pun, and one says "Ballsy." Had Brevin Galloway's picture. I thought it was fantastic. Cash in, man. Cash in.
Yeah, I like leaning into it and not having this mysterious lower body we don't know about. School's not telling us what happened. We get the guy from his hospital bed telling us what happened. That's what I want for my injury reports. I want firsthand from the horse's mouth. Give that to us all the time in the future. Kai, before we close up Roots Roundup, we got to go to you for the Reddit stat of the day.
Reddit stat of the day, courtesy of username Cheeseburger and Rice. Kansas holds the NCAA D1 record for most victories over a single opponent with 204 against Kansas State. I actually had to look this up because I didn't believe it. I was like, 204? That's a lot. I looked it up. It's true. They've beaten Kansas State 204 times. Yikes.
Yeah, and 39 of them have been by Bill Self. He's 39-7 against Kansas State.
Not bad.
It's 26-14 against the spread against Kansas State. It's been
1-1 this year.
Yeah, pure dominance since Self took over. But maybe Jerome Tang is here to even the playing field. Excited to see how that lasts. Whether Tang sticks around at K-State for a super long time, that is also a pending question in the coaching world as we stare at that Texas opening and wonder who ends up filling that one. All right, Matt, handing it back to you for our next section, Roots Roundup, over and out.
We've saw that begins now. Although I think this first one, I didn't actually see this, but my boy basically headlining a list of high scoring outbursts over the weekend. Drew Pember for UNC Asheville. Yes, I know many of you are not UNC Asheville diehards. A former Tennessee transfer who's been like a cheat code in that conference. We've been mentioning his name along the ride here. Just continuing to build some momentum, crescendoing to what I hope is an NCAA tournament appearance for Mr. Pember. And a potential coming out party as a mid-major darling player. I don't want to speak into existence, Kai, but I really think there's some big momentum with this UNC Asheville team, and Pember is at the forefront of it. Fun player.
Very much. He's awesome. He might be an NBA player. Wait for him. Wait for him to get drafted. We'll see. I have no idea, to be honest. He seems like he could be. Jim, you're more of an NBA guy. I don't know.
I'm not super plugged in, but I do follow entirely too many NBA draft Twitter people. And for some reason, they have all seized on Grant Nelson of North Dakota State as this darling, whereas Pember might be better. And he can clearly shoot the ball. And you have a big man that can shoot, is skilled. That seems like exactly what they're looking for in the pros. So, I don't know for sure, but Kai, it makes sense to me.
Be cool if Tennessee had Pember this season. I think he'd actually probably crack the lineup and contribute. Pretty good team already, so I don't know if they actually need him. Other massive scoring outbursts. Trenton Mastner, fun player for Western Illinois. Kai, our Leathernecks, not so far from, actually kind of far from St. Louis. This is like over a week ago, but 21 field goal attempts and 5 free throw attempts. This is my kind of outburst, just pure shot making personified. Not like this, I go to the line 25 times like James Harden type, like a really fun shot making scoring performance. So well done, Trent.
Your other boy, Marcus
Shahones, who I once loved but now hate, and now maybe I'm loving again because he's on the beach. In a triple overtime affair, had 46. 38 field goal attempts, 17 free throw attempts. A lot uglier. High volume, Jim. Volume score.
A lot.
It's hilarious that like he threw the ball at the basket 55 times to score 46, and Massner did it 26 times.
Yes.
So 29 less some sort of attempts, and they scored the same amount of points.
Trenton Massner's awesome. He's also getting a lot more attention. I think he was the USBWA Player of the Week in the country last week. He had a game winner as well. Guy's awesome.
Yep. He's carrying that Western Illinois team to relevance. It's tip of the cap to him.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, shouts to Dame time. Dame Adelekun for Dartmouth, 41 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks. Fun player. Kind of under the radar there on the Ivy has a lot of fun big guys. They all kind of have really fun big guys that they play around. So that's kind of the theme I think you'll see if whoever comes out of that little 4-man tournament up there in the Ancient Eight. And finally, Julian Strawther for Gonzaga. No one talks about this team anymore after we've kind of coronated St. Mary's as the class.
About that team.
No one talks. It's completely on the back burner. We've given up. We are tired of their whole, is this the year they're going to win it? Now they're actually vulnerable, and now everyone hates them. I still like this team. I hope they actually make a run in the tournament, because it would be very ironic and fitting, to come out of nowhere when no one expects it.
Strawther had 40 points, Matt. You're burying the lead. No one can read the outline. You got to.
Sorry. Yeah, Julian Strawther, nice job. 40 points, big performance for you. But just a tangent to Gonzaga. I think it hit me how little we've actually discussed them.
Yeah, it's funny.
There are no thoughts about them today. There's not been a thought about Gonzaga all season on this podcast.
They're only 18-4, and they beat Alabama by 10. They beat Xavier on a neutral. They beat Kentucky. They beat Michigan State. Yep, no one cares about Gonzaga. They're underachieving, right?
Yeah. Well, I think I said on another show, this is the first year since 2016 that their KenPom rank has dropped in league play. Like it usually always goes up or stays at 1, but they're not dominating the WCC the way they have. It's surprising.
2 more hilarious final scores to discuss. Both teams just juggernauts in their own regard. Alabama beating Vanderbilt by 57 points. Oral Roberts beat South Dakota by 50 points. That one you probably didn't see. I was more locked into that one because I love this Oral Roberts team. I mean, Bama obviously has been my baby all season. Kai, Vandy that bad, Bama that good?
Somewhere in between. You can't say wow to Alabama beating them by 57 and ignore the Oklahoma 24-point loss. You can't do that. So Alabama's awesome. They have capabilities of doing this. They beat LSU by 40 as well. Their top gear is amazing. But are they the best team in the country, in my opinion? No, they're not.
But are they a national title contender? Lucas posits no in the chat. Matt, your opinion on that? I think they absolutely are. They're a top 14 in the country.
Yes. Again, when we talk national title contenders, this is a very different year, and that the pool is wider this year. You can list up to, in my opinion, like 10-ish teams this season. This is the first year you can do that.
I'll disagree.
It's a different year. Okay.
I think you can do that in many years. I mean, it's not 2021 where it's like Gonzaga Baylor collision course, but I still think it's rather wide.
It's a very arbitrary line. Like what is it's drawing a binary line in the sand when there really is none. But in general, I think there are more teams with, I think, legitimate, feasible aspirations to hoist the chalice. It's not really a chalice, just like a plaque, but you know what I'm saying. Texas Tech, team that's been sneaking all year, amazing 23-point comeback against Iowa State, who's been an awesome Big 12 story as well. Does this save the Red Raiders season? No, it doesn't. But Iowa State, sorry for 2.5 ticket holders in that one. That did not cover, Kai.
No. Yeah, Iowa State up 23, lost. They were healthy. Texas Tech was not healthy, and Texas Tech beat them in overtime at their place by 3. Got to tip your cap to the Red Raiders. No easy buckets in the Big 12, so they say. Yeah, Texas Tech's done though, Matt. 1-8 in the Big 12.
They done
1-10 against Q1, Q2 competition. Yeah. Like you have to win 5 in a row to get on the radar for at-large selection.
What if they went out, become the story of college basketball? They will make turn if they went out.
The run that changed our season. Yeah, that would be wild.
Of all the Big 12 teams, Texas Tech is the one where it's like, if you hit fast forward to February 1st, 2024, what does that team look like? Like, I have no idea. Like literally no idea. I could have maybe posited a guess like these other teams, but just what that roster looked like, coaching situation, wink, wink, how good they are. We'll see. Fun little inclusion here on the Weave Cell that Chicago State, Chicago's hometown team, getting it done against the Military Academy Citadel Bulldogs on the road. every time this team plays, they're just feisty and competitive. Again, talked about Gerald Gill and what an amazing job he's done there. Just want to continue to beat that drum. And not so far away, literally just a mile across the road.
The most fun story of that, or piece of that story, Matthew. The buzzer beater.
The fashion which had happened. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't actually see the buzzer beater. Was it a cool? Was it a layup? Was it a shot? What was it?
It's not about the buzzer beater itself. It's about who made it.
Yeah, Brent Davis.
Oh, that's right. It was revenge.
Former Citadel.
It was revenge.
Yes, made the buzzer beater.
That's like your favorite angle, Matt.
A militant defector gets the military school. I don't know how I feel about that, actually.
He probably just went there for basketball, for being honest.
I'm clearly over probing that. I was excited to talk about Charleston, who I'm really bummed about losing because now their at-large hopes are hanging in the ballots. But yes, Hofstra and a big-time Colonial Showdown did take down my beloved Charleston Cougars. Their record's very gaudy. Their metrics are good, but not great. We'll see how this pans out on Selection Sunday. But the margin for error is razor thin for my Cougars, Kai.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get it. We'll see.
Just win the tournament. It'll be fun. Pat Kelsey did it many times at Winthrop. I think he can do it again at Charleston. And then our last observation, Clemson falls to Boston College, the ACC darling, still with a lead in that conference, but their margin is also starting to shrink. It's just been a weird season, the ACC. It's a conference where I think it's actually better than people have given it credit for. But when you talk about Clemson at the top of the league standings, it's tough to lead with that as your point as to why this league's better than you think. It's just a deeper league, I think, than most people give it credit for. But hey, props to Clemson. A lot of injuries. They've been good.
It did the opposite of what the SEC did. It didn't win games in the non-con. And so now you're like, oh, look how good Clemson looks. Like, well, you lost to Loyola Chicago by a ton. You lost to South Carolina in the non-con. And now because you're beating ACC teams, I have to ignore that and pretend you're great. I don't know. This turned into a bit of a shout out to our guy, Terrence Oglesby. We love T.O. Does a great job, color commentary. But he's on this abolish the net kick because Clemson is 62nd in the net despite being atop the ACC. I just want to, they're also 60th in the RPI if you want to go back to that crappy old system. And a reminder, your net doesn't actually matter. It matters for where other teams fall and the teams you beat, the teams you lost to. They're not going to get left in or out because their net is 40th for 60th or even 30th for 70th. You just have to win games against good teams and not lose against bad teams. And right now, Clemson is 7-2 against the top two quadrants. That's fantastic. But they're 11-3 versus the bottom two. Margins are very thin. So predictively, I don't know how great they are. They're comfortably in right now. Don't worry about that. But they have, like you said, Kai, thin margin for error. Not as thin as Charleston's, but Clemson has to make sure they don't just kind of trip down the stretch and fall out of the field.
As I look at their resume real quick from a naive bracketologist, none of their wins really impress me that much. There's a lot of just quantity there. There's really no impressive quality. I mean, beating Virginia Tech without Couture, I know they beat them twice. Okay, I'll give you credit for that. They beat Duke. Yep, without Jeremy Roach.
But I thought you said the ACC is awesome, Matt. They're atop this incredible ACC.
It's sneaky. There's a lot of I think a lot of landmines for non-ACC teams playing ACC teams in the tournament. That's my hot take.
Yeah, that's fine. I buy that.
But sorry, T.O., we love you. Just had to throw some cold water on.
It's not the Nets' fault.
It's not the Nets' fault.
Straw man.
I trust the robots and the machines doing the model. They are smarter than me, and maybe not smarter than you, but they are smarter than me. So I'll give them the credit there. It's time for thoughts from three men. Ordering, sequencing of these. I actually have one that piggybacks one of Kai's. Jim, I'd like you to lead this if you don't mind, if you'd so oblige.
I would love to. I alluded to it, and we saw that we are talking Big 12. We're going to re-rank the Big 12. I'm putting you guys on the spot. I'm going to put myself on the spot as well. It's really difficult, especially 1 through 6, even 1 through 7. But let me just lay out for listeners and viewers. Hi, hello, yes. Where every team is in. I'm just going to give you KenPom and seed line right now from Bracket Matrix. Right now, Kansas is 9th in KenPom and a 2 seed. Texas 10th and a 2 seed. Baylor 14th and a 3 seed. TCU 15th and a 4 seed. Iowa State 18th, 3 seed. Kansas State 25th, 3 seed. West Virginia 19th, but they're all the way down at a 10/11 seed. So really big gap there. Then Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are 35th and 38th, right around the bubble territory. And then you have Texas Tech that I think should be ranked 10th by all of us. That's the easiest one to fill in the blank on here. But given the crowding at the top there, both predictively and in resume-based stuff with the bracketing, Kai, how do you order this league right now?
Scary.
I don't want to frame it like who's most likely to win the title contender. That's kind of a separate question. Just who do you think in order the best teams are atop the Big 12?
I think Kansas is the best team. You know what? And the rest is kind of the same to me. I guess I still maybe lean towards Iowa State at number 2. I'll go Baylor 3, Texas 4, Kansas State 5. And then 6 would be Oklahoma State, 7, Oklahoma. That sounds right.
Tough. West Virginia 8th. I believe you skipped TCU.
TCU is 3 behind Iowa State. Move the others down.
All right. Matthew.
Kansas 1.
That's a mature admission for you.
Kansas has
been against
Kansas
them all season. You've been against Kansas a little bit.
Yeah, I have. Texas 2, Baylor 3, Iowa State 4, TCU 5, Kansas State 6, Oklahoma 7, Oklahoma State 8, West Virginia 7, Oklahoma State 8, Oklahoma 9, Texas Tech 10. Is that right? Kansas 1, Texas 2, Baylor 3, Iowa State 4, TCU 5, Kansas State, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. That's the answer. Boom. Write that down.
Bangs gavel. There it is. All
Bangs
right,
gavel. Confirmed.
I'm hesitant. I'm debating my 1 and 2. I want to say TCU fully healthy is 1, but they're also not fully healthy.
You're too excited about TCU. Kansas is better than TCU.
If you take out the first 10 days of the season, TCU is the best team in the Big 12 by filtering Bart Torvik. And I think I like watching the eye test has stood up to that. They won by 25 at Kansas. That certainly helps my argument a little bit. But I will say Kansas is the best team. But I'm going to go TCU 2, Baylor 3, Texas 4, which feels really unfair to Texas given their recent results. I probably am not giving them their shake there. Kansas State 5 for me. I'm going to Iowa State 6. I'm really worried about what happens to them after that collapse. I just think that can have long lasting ramifications. And all these teams are like 6 and 3 in the league. So you can't really go by a league record. That's tough to do it that way, but I'm going to Iowa State down there at 6. West Virginia 7, debating Oklahoma over them. I think West Virginia is overrated by analytical sites still from early in the year when they were hot shooting and some of those performances. Matt, beating your Gators by 30 is aging well as Florida blows teams out in the SEC. I'll go Oklahoma State 9, Texas Tech 10. So who's
I like
most likely to win
mine.
a title?
I like yours better than mine. Baylor.
Interesting. Their defense is flawed. Kai, most likely to win a title?
Kansas.
Okay.
Wow.
Easily.
Yeah, best combination of roster and coach for a title run.
Probably Kansas. It's probably
Kansas. Most vulnerable to an early upset of that top 6 with all those teams in the 2-3-2 seed line. It's Baylor, Matt says. Tell me why.
Defense. You're right. I just think it's the most volatile team of the Big 12, like legit challengers, I think, with the defensive concerns. But I think there's a version where it's like, wow, these guards are better than any other guard tandem, whatever. They have 4 of them at this point that are, I think they can compete, if not outplay any other guard tandem. Maybe Houston. And if they get Mr. Cha-Cha back in the mix, I don't think that's going to happen, but I keep seeing him warming up and looking healthier, and that excites me because he could be a defensive Swiss Army knife that could really make this thing fall together.
Kai, do you have an opinion on most likely to get upset early of that top group?
Man, it's probably I'll say Texas.
Texas. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going K-State.
So notice I didn't say K-State. That's maturity by me, by the way. I want to point that out. I would have said K-State a week ago.
I think K-State is high ceiling, low floor because you need 2 guys to play really well. If Noel or Keontae Johnson has
no
a stinker,
fallback,
they could be in real trouble. But those guys are good enough to not have stinkers for 4 straight rounds. I just don't know if that's going to be sustainable or like you never know. It's one game on one day. They could potentially have a bad one. So I think Kansas State is wider range. All right. That's my first thought, guys. That's my first thought. Kai, going to you so that Matt can piggyback off of it.
The sadness of the A10 is where I'm going to go with my first thought, guys. It's the worst version we've seen since 2019. In that year, VCU got an 8 seed. SLU won the auto bid as a 13 seed. They had 3 top 100 teams. I'd argue this year's version is worse. We're not getting an at-large team in this current version of the A10 unless VCU makes a serious run. Per KenPom, it's the 3rd worst A10 in his website's history. The 2005 version of the A10 had 1 bid that year. It was George Washington. This year, like I said, man, you're not getting an at-large. Maybe VCU. All 3 of Dayton, SLU, and VCU are top 100, but they haven't looked good. They don't have the resumes. Only VCU of that group has outperformed their KenPom preseason rank. And in fact, the only teams besides VCU doing that are Fordham, who has risen from 229 to 139. They're 18-4, Matthew, Fordham, but they have played pretty soft schedule to get to 18-4.
Yeah, that's a board bet win for Matt. I think we had an over under 200 KenPom rank, and he had under 60 spots under. I said over, so Matthew, I'm going to early handshake you there, Matt. Good call.
Keith Ergo doing a better job than Kyle Neptune. How about that?
George, 3 weeks ago, they were 194th, and then they've gone a bit.
It's been a tale of 3 seasons for them.
Yeah.
George Washington has also improved their preseason rank, 222 to 181. Another first-year guy in Chris Caputo. And Duquesne has slightly improved their preseason rank, 136 to 125. UMass is even. Every single other team in this conference, there are 14 teams, is severely, 15 teams, is severely underperforming their preseason rank. Notables here. Loyola, number 237 this season. It is their worst team since 2014. It is their 3rd worst team in the KenPom era, dating back to 1997. That's the KenPom era for the purposes of this exercise. LaSalle, number 262, worst team since 2016, 2nd worst team in the KenPom era. Davidson, number 147, worst since 2010, 4th worst in the KenPom era. And Rhode Island, number 213, worse than any David Cox team, worst since 2012, 5th worst in the KenPom era. It's pretty shocking how every team is pretty much taking a nosedive this year. Why? I don't know, Jim.
Yeah. Well, the 4 you just mentioned have all changed coaches in the last 24 months. So that's probably part of it, or
true.
23 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of legends gone, Bob McKillop gone, Porter Moser gone. Like that really hurts. I just wanted to go back to your no at large point, just to reiterate this. Dayton has 3 Q3 losses. SLU has a Q3 and a Q4. VCU has 2 Q4. Like, they've all dropped the games you can't drop. And that's going to be really, really hard to recover from when there aren't many Q1, Q2 opportunities in this league. It's kind of all snowballed onto itself, and it's bad news for the A10, Matthias.
Yeah, it is. The second thought I was brewing out there, I didn't actually include, was the Valleys drop as well. Kind of a Valley A10 connection with the teams transferring conference, Loyola being the notable there. So yeah, 2 fun conferences, basketball rich traditions, great fan bases. They don't deserve this. They deserve better across the board. So it's a shame. It'll make the tournaments fun because there's a lot to play for there, like everything to play for. But you'd like to see more horses enter the field, the big field, when it's, when March rolls around.
Just more bids for someone else. We'll see who gets those bids. Back to Jim. First thought. Second thought.
Well, what was Matt's first thought?
I messed up the ordering here. I'll take it.
He was piggybacking on your thought. Weird.
Jim, I meant to piggyback off your thought. I messed that up because you're talking bracket resume stuff, and that's the entire essence of my overly extensive thought. But
okay,
I'll just jump into it. Enter the bracket matrix. Just some bold bracket predictions to come out of some musings here. I just spent a lot of time looking at the bracket matrix site, potential matchups, where things are trending. It's February 1st, early, but we can kind of start to paint that picture. I like to kind of think about these potential matchups and who am I going to be looking to ride a Sweet 16 run? Who are some teams that could be on upset alert just based on the range of their seed outcome, the style in which they play, what styles they may not play. It's all hypothetical hearsay, but hey, we're in a podcast. Okay, who the heck cares? My first thought when I saw this, 12 seeds, they're awesome. Maybe I just like them more than how good they are, but Oral Roberts, which was almost a separate thought for me on this podcast as well. The bigger, badder, better version of the Max Asmus or Roberts circa 2021? What was it? 2 years ago when they beat Ohio State?
21. Right?
21. Charleston, although we'll see. Kent State, as we've waxed poetic about how good the Kent State Golden Flashes are. And then Liberty, as they continue to run roughshod over the Ace Sun. But the 5 seeds are like really dangerous as well. And the 5 currently slated are UConn, St. Mary's, Indiana, and Rutgers. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you think of UConn. That's still an insanely dangerous 5 seed. And St. Mary's is a top 10 team right now in the metrics. People have been talking about how they would be favored potentially as like a 7 seed if they played a 2 seed second round. Indiana, Jim, I think you whispered how good this team could be. That was before they laid an egg at Maryland last night. But, maybe if Jalen Hood-Schifino doesn't go 1 for 14 from the floor, it's a different story. And I still believe Indiana is really good. And I still believe Rutgers is all the way good. Bottom line, I think a lot of the fun mid-majors kind of are going to have bad matchups. And I'm worried about this. I worry that the depth in that 4 to 6 range is really strong this season, where I think the elites is a little bit down. I think the depth at that 4 to 6 range is actually better than it has been. And so I'm probably going to see, though, in my opinion, some chalk in that range. But I think we'll have a lot of fun upsets in like the second round with like the 7, 10, 8, 9s. So you look at those potential matchups. Your Mizzou Tigers fall in that bucket, by the way. I think they have giant killing potential.
Haven't won a
for
tournament
sure.
game in a long time. I would
know.
take a win first round.
Winning
for
2
sure.
would be wild.
The history speaks volumes against you, no question. But trying to ignore that for the sake of conversation, I like. I guess I'll pose this question: how many 8, 10, 7, 8, 9, 7, 10 winners do you think will have advanced to the Sweet 16? Basically, how many 1 seeds and 2 seeds do you think lose? And let's just use the current projection right now. Purdue, Alabama, Houston, Tennessee, Kansas, Arizona, Texas, UCLA. That's a pretty good list.
It's hard to project right now. I will say these 12 seeds aren't going to be the 12 seeds, unfortunately, when it comes down to it.
No,
the bracket
it's
always
confirmed.
looks tough before the tournaments. But keep in mind about the 5 seeds. The 5 seeds, I bet if you looked back at every tournament on February 1st, you would say, wow, that's a tough 5 seed group. Remember Purdue? Remember that Purdue team that lost to Little Rock? Yeah. That team was really, really good.
Yeah.
And they got smacked to a Little Rock team that did not match up well with them. That's the beauty of the tournament. And you just had no idea. Did Kentucky, were they supposed to lose to St. Peter's? I mean, that's what makes the tournament awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you got 5 seed. Oh, Ben Howland is going to resurrect Mississippi State, and then they lose in the first round to Liberty. And Purdue again, 4 seed, lose to 13 North Texas. Like, even teams you think are somewhat upset proof can go down. Matt, I'll answer your question. I think there's going to be 2 upsets from the 7, 8, 9, 10 seeds. So we have 2 of the top 8 teams not into the round of Sweet 16.
Kentucky is a 9 or a 10. How about that?
Yeah.
Duke is in that range. Creighton's in that range. Like, there's some dangerous teams in that 7 to 10 range.
Is Duke dangerous? What have they done?
They're dangerous.
They're dangerous.
They're dangerous.
I'll be shocked if
Creighton
doesn't get Creighton will be like a 6 or a 5 into that.
I think Creighton's going to win a lot between now and the tournament starting.
And also our beloved Florida Atlantic Owls are in that range as well. A couple of bold predictions here. Talked about Drew Pember early. So if UNC Asheville wins 16 seed, Mr. Pember, how about a little showdown with Purdue? A little inside out little chess match with Zach Edey and the Boilers, who obviously are really good. I think there's a world in which Purdue struggles in the first round. Maybe kind of finds himself in a nail biter. Maybe it's against some dynamic guards or against a just star-esque performance that Pember can deliver. Am I off my rocker there in seeing a team like Purdue or Jim? Tennessee is another 1 seed who I think could who we've seen before, sleepwalk as a large favorite in that spot.
Yeah, it's possible. No question. And I think if somebody can slow down Arizona, force them to play more in the half court, that team is just not as dominant. They've won a couple half court games recently. I want to make sure that's clear. Like the UCLA and Washington State games were really impressive, played slower crawls and still won. But I think they're going to be vulnerable to that. So I think there are a couple teams in there, Matt, where if you get the wrong matchup, and we love Styles making fights, then we could see some shockers.
2007, the last year the Big South won a tournament game. They just don't play well in the tournament. They were Longwood last year. Absolutely freaking smacked
by Tennessee. Yeah,
Smacked.
Close.
I will say this though: a Big South team has recently spooked a 1 seed for at least 20 minutes. Gardner Webb was up at halftime by Virginia.
That's right.
The year after Virginia had lost and won. So yeah, we'll see.
Those were two of the ones, and I'm like, I could see us like, oh, whoa, you see Purdue's down 1 with 10 to play, like in Tennessee is the other one. I was like, I could see that happening. I'm not going to bet on that, but that's just the nature of those teams, I guess. Really bold prediction here. I'm in Florida right now. Obviously, I'm Maddie Naples, but I do think we're going to see either Miami, Florida. We're going to see both Miami, Florida, and FAU in the second weekend. I really like this Florida. The FAU team, we talked about it ad nauseum, but the more I think about this Miami team, part of me is like, they're overrated. It's like, no, they're just really good. Like, I think the makeup last year looks a lot similar. Just the space and pace and the style in which they play, I think plays well in the tourney. We saw it last season up close and personal, Kai. I think we have 2 Florida-based teams and a third Florida team makes the field that's way off the radar right now. That could be Florida. It could be Florida State. It could be one of these nondescript ASUN teams, your Stetsons or North Floridas. I think they get there as well. And it's a Florida party. Just an absolute party in the panhandle, baby.
I'd like to announce that the outline says another Florida school wins a game in the tournament.
I know, I backed off. That's too bold.
We're bold. But.
Too bold.
So you're talking about Liberty as a 12 seed. Stetson and Florida Gulf Coast can't win if Liberty's going to be in the tournament. And then Florida State, come on, I'm not winning the ACC. Florida, maybe. Hey, I want our
Florida
Gators
can get there.
Tournament. I want them to make. They got to win. They got to beat Tennessee. They got to win some games here.
This was a Florida-based angle, and I threw in some extra like Hail Mary just to kind of hedge. Yeah, Florida State, maybe they get hot in the ACC tournament. Yeah, maybe Stetson gets hot as they have, and maybe North Florida gets hot too in the ASUN tournament.
Does UCF win the American tournament?
And UCF, yeah, I forgot UCF, the team I loved and then forgot about. Hendricks, NBA talent, FIU, no. But
FAU gets the at-large, FIU gets the auto. Why not?
2 more hot takes. I think Northwestern gets to the dance, even though they're starting to.
They're in right now.
They're in. I think it's not safely, but they're on the right side securely of the bubble. Yeah. I think they win their first round game too. And this time it won't require a Matthew Fisher Davis. What the heck are you doing? Foul to secure them their first ever victory. And we'll see all the big J journos go nuts on Twitter since we know 50% of all sports journalists went to Northwestern. I won't enjoy that part of the story, but that's why I see that storyline planning out. Finally, I think Gonzaga goes farther than St. Mary's in the tournament. This whole St. Mary's is awesome.
I'll take the Gales.
Okay. Kai?
I do too. Gonzaga. Yep.
Ride with me, baby. Let's go.
I love that people are sleeping on Gonzaga.
I agree.
It's fantastic.
Like, yeah, they have flaws. I don't care.
Sucks.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't care.
They're a good team. Hey, Northwestern, number 10 in KenPom in the Big Ten.
Defense? I know. Defense, worried about it.
Their defense in Big Ten play has been bad.
Yeah. So yeah, Matt, just a lot of hot takes here. Say hander there.
I will piggyback then. We'll go reverse piggyback. I don't know if that's like a
that kind of counts.
Whatever. But yeah, I want to talk about kind of seeding and quality discrepancies. I will be bringing this up on Fielding the 68 next Monday when I talk with a couple true blue bracketologists. But I want your guys' sort of fan opinion, gambling opinion, how this should go. When you have a team like St. Mary's that's 7th in KenPom, but projected to be a 5 seed, or Creighton 11th in KenPom, projected to be an 8-9 seed, like how cruel is that to a 1 seed? We had Xavier be a 1 seed one year and they were 14th in KenPom. So there would have been underdog in the second round to an 8-9 seed. That is outrageous. How do you feel like we should treat these teams when their analytics far outpace their resume? Matt, I'll go to you first because Kai at least probably has thought about this. Well, maybe I'll go Kai first because you've thought about it for Fielding the 68.
So treat them as in like betting on them, picking them in the tournament, or
seeding them. Do you feel like they should get a bump up to, almost in fairness to the higher seeds?
Yes, I definitely think so. And I think that's been happening more recently because the predictive metrics, right, are the driving force behind the actual seeding in the bracket, which is why you see some of these teams that have a poor record but are seeded pretty highly because they have so many great wins. And that's fairness to other teams too. It's not fair to see a top 10 Wichita State team with an 8 seed next to their name in the second round if you're a 1 seed. It's not fair if you're Illinois a couple of years ago playing Loyola in the second round. Those teams should be seeded higher. Everyone knows they're better, but I also understand the merit of, hey, it's whether you won games or not. It's not supposed to be a predictive system either. So I get it.
Yeah, it's just cruel. Like you mentioned Wichita. I think that's the perfect example. Back in 2016, they were entering the tournament 12th in KenPom, played a play-in game against Vanderbilt, and then were favored as an 11 seed over 6 seed Arizona in the opening round. Like, maybe you should bump those teams. It's a difficult line to walk, Matt, because you don't want like not winning games to matter too much. But
yeah,
I do think it's tough to kind of booby trap the route for a team that's a high seed, and like, you have to play number 11, number 14, and number 17 in KenPom. Good luck.
Haven't we talked about like the idea of doing like what you've done, your resume is who gets in, and then you throw it out, then you have the teams that are in, and you go through and you see them based more on like predictive type stuff, right? I think we've talked about that as an option. I don't really like that, honestly. I do think, as someone who probably is overly invested in predictive type of metrics, I do think for the tournament, it shouldn't be that way. You have to preserve the win-loss aura, right? That's what matters, and you have to preserve that. So going too far away from that, to me, loses the spirit of it. And I'm sorry if you get dealt a, Illinois, I'm sorry you played Loyola. Okay. Brett, I'm sorry you got that draw, but that's kind of the way, those teams that play Wichita, the Fred VanVleet, Ron Baker teams, I'm sorry, but just kind of the way it goes.
Yep.
I don't know.
Still got to beat the teams in front of you if you want to win a title.
Yeah, true.
So St. Mary's is an obvious one of these. West Virginia, even a top 20 team that's down the 10-11 range. Creighton and Arkansas, 20th in KenPom, 10 seed right now. And Ohio State, 26th, and just not even in the field. Like, not really that close to being in the field. Horrific resume for that squad. Do you, Kai, expect these teams to trend up? You can pick one or two if you feel like one definitely will trend up or will not. If you think Iowa State's going to like continue to lose game, or Ohio State will continue to lose games. What do you think?
I think West Virginia ends up missing the tournament. Big 12 is just too tough. Their record's not going to get there. I don't think. St. Mary's, how much higher can you get? If they beat Gonzaga, if they split or sweep them, I can see them getting higher into it. I bet 4 seed is where they top out. Maybe 3. If they went out 3 seed, 2 seed, maybe. Creighton's going to go higher than an 8 or 9. I bet they end up as a 6 or a 5. Arkansas, TBD. I'm not actually scared of Arkansas in the tournament.
I'm not either.
Personally. I know Musselman
Smith comes back, but
2 straight Elite Eights. But gosh, they should have lost every single round last tournament. Yeah, that's what people don't like look at, right? They're down 10 in every game of that tournament. And then Ohio State, I like to think they improve. Their defense is just terrible, though. It's hard to see them getting momentum, but maybe they will. Maybe they'll pull a Providence. Remember Providence, how bad they were that one season, and then they went on a February, like rattled off 12 wins in a row.
Yeah, that was the tournament that never was. They like had the most dominant February of anybody. Yes. It was ridiculous. It was like Q1 win. Okay, all right.
Hopefully this stuff will sort itself out. Yeah, but there's going to be underseeded teams, Matt. Hey, FAU will probably be an 8 or a 9, and they might get into the top 25 in KenPom here soon. Yep. That's going to suck for a 1 seed to play. Yeah.
I just saw Nathan Stern asking Luke just asked, is it possible Arkansas doesn't get a bid? I think that's possible. Their like actual resume stuff kind of stinks. They're very much carried
awesome.
by their
I really would enjoy that. I'm sorry.
I would enjoy it too. I don't like Arkansas either.
I don't.
Well, hey, don't call it the fans. I just don't like the program.
Oh, I don't like the fans.
You're gonna have clown emojis in your mentions.
Who cares?
They're just people.
Who cares? I can say I don't like people. They probably don't like me. It's fine. We can live in that. We can live in that world. They've been very whiny this season. That's why I kind of.
They're very whiny.
Very whiny.
Yes.
I agree, Jim. I was trying to find the one team that always comes to mind. The 31 New Mexico Steve Alford team, circa 2010. Darrington Hobson, Dries Gary, 43rd in KenPom, 3 seed. Got waxed by Washington second round.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the inverse of this is last year with Wisconsin and Providence getting 3 and 4 seed while they were like 35th and 32nd respectively in KenPom, and spreads weren't big. So it does matter more that you win games. The predictive stuff, it doesn't end up doing as much for seeding as we probably think it should. All right, Kai, your second thought. We can close out with that. I think Matt only has one.
I took down the A10. So I'm like, hey, maybe there's a conference that's doing really well this season. If the A10's all down, it's the WAC, the mighty WAC, man. This is the best version of the WAC we have seen since it looked totally different back in 2010. Guys, here are the teams in 2010 in the WAC, by the way. I had to do a double take. Utah State, Nevada, New Mexico State, Louisiana Tech, Fresno, Idaho, San Jose State, Boise, and Hawaii. Only New Mexico State is still in the WAC. Most of those schools are in the Mountain West now.
It's like Mountain West, Big Sky, weird
crazy.
fusion. Yeah.
Yes. Craziness. There are 2 top 100 teams this year in the WAC. That's Utah Valley and Sam Houston. 5 more are in the top 150 with Southern Utah, Seattle, SFA, Grand Canyon, and CalBAP. It would be cool to see one of these schools getting at large. Unfortunately, I don't see it happening. Sam Houston, even if they went out, it's still kind of a tough case with the lack of quality wins. But in a down year for other mid-major conferences like the A10, who knows? Every single team is outperforming their preseason rank except these teams. Grand Canyon, who is barely underperforming, 96 to 119. The injury to their point guard certainly hurts that.
Yeah, exactly.
We call that one a wash.
Preseason WAC player of the year. Yeah,
yes.
I'll allow you to fall 20 spots.
Yes. UT Arlington is underperforming, 271 in KenPom preseason, 290 now. And there are really only 2 actual disappointing teams this year in the WAC out of 13 teams. Abilene Christian, who was 113 preseason, down to 228, and New Mexico State, who was 137 and now sitting at 195. And you could argue, man, the way they've been playing, even 195 is pretty generous.
Yeah, 0-9 in the league, fart noise. That team is
good gosh.
Poor.
But every other team outperforming preseason expectations. It's been an impressive year for the WAC, going to be a super dangerous 12 or 13 seed in the NCAA tournament.
It's an awesome middle, Matt. Like basically their 1 through 10 is like a typical Missouri Valley year, where it's like you have a couple kind of creeping in the top 100 and then a whole bunch of teams from like 100 to 160 that make for a bunch of brawls basically every single night. So unfortunately that doesn't equal at large or a super high seed for the auto bid winner. But man, whether it's Sam Houston, Utah Valley, Seattle, Southern Utah, like there's going to be a pesky squad in the field because it's a really good league and they've been tested for 3.5 months going into it.
Yep. And there's a lot of different styles in this league too. A lot of teams that play fast, some that play slow, which I think is good. Right? You talk about how sometimes it hurts conferences when you play the same type of team, the homogeneity, whatever the right fancy word is there. I think that the contrast in styles will play well. Like you're going to see Southern Utah, who goes up and down in a blistering pace, and you'll also see Sam Houston, who plays slow and grinds you out in the half court. Another fun fact about the WAC, Kai, the number 1 home win percentage in conference play of all conferences per KenPom. Nice. Unsurprising. I can't imagine traveling on a weekly basis from, the Valley of UT Rio Grande Valley up to Utah Tech and then up to Seattle and then down to New Mexico State and then over to Grand Canyon. It's just a wild, wild conference geographically, I guess.
It is. Vast. That does it for my second thought. And I believe 3-man thoughts in general, Matthew.
That concludes our thoughts. We have no other thoughts. I guess we have more thoughts, but we'll save them for another day. Let's preview some big time games this weekend. Purdue at Indiana. It was clear Indiana was looking ahead to Purdue, as they usually do.
Oh, are you not giving credit to Maryland? Oh, you bastard.
You've hated Maryland all year. You're such a Maryland hater, man.
No, I like
Give the Terps credit. Give them credit.
I'm about to light my Maryland Big Ten future prop on fire right now. That's probably a stupid bet, but it seemed good at the time when they beat SLU by 30. TJD versus Zach Key is going to be a fun little matchup here. Mm-hmm. The Indiana woes against Purdue recently, Jim, it does bother me. I do like that Indiana has shown some versatility with their lineup usage this season. However, the reinsertion of Race Thompson, as I've talked about, is kind of a double-edged sword in that I think it gives them some size that they'll probably need if they need multiple bodies to throw at Edey in this matchup. But I think the best basketball we've seen Indiana play the last few weeks was without Race, who is kind of a backwards thing where I thought he'd be a linchpin of this team, but they've actually had other guys step up, Geronimo and the youngsters. Curious what Woodson does here game plan wise. I think Indiana gets this win finally. I've said it the last, 6 times. I'm always wrong about predicting this matchup. I think Indiana wins this game.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the struggles lately. Indiana's won 1 game in the last 10 against Purdue. It
1-9.
Dismal. Oof. And Matt, how did they win that 1 game?
Wait, that was the
Rob Finney insane explosion.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like this guy has never played this well in his life kind of thing.
Robbie Fins.
I know it's a different coaching regime. It's not Archie Miller anymore. So a lot of that is moot, but Painter's system has been very effective against whatever Indiana has thrown out at it. The off-ball movement stuff, I think, plays up, and I think Edey wins that matchup. I know that Trace is more mobile, and that probably does help him a little bit, and foul trouble is going to be massive. If one of them gets in it early, then that changes the trajectory of the game. But Kai, I side towards the 7'4" guy. I just think he's going to have a little bit more of an edge there. Good luck if Indiana tries to play single coverage. You might have Trace on the bench early. I lean towards Purdue.
Yeah, I'll push back a little bit on Race Thompson, Matt. I mean, they beat Illinois and Wisconsin without him. They lost to Penn State. They lost Northwestern without him. They didn't play that well without him. I don't think.
It's like Dayton with their guards, where like they
Wisconsin
started
without
poorly
Wall
without him, and then they figured it out and started playing really well without him, and then he came back and they dipped right back down.
Yeah, I think he's very important. Indiana fans were telling me how Race Thompson was their most important player.
Right, I know that's the irony of the take. I think is that I think it's come to bear that actually there's a world in which they're better with using him less as more of a reserve, I suppose.
I guess I'll disagree, but TJD, I think he struggles against Edey. TJD's mobile for sure, but he's not shooting out there. Like Edey doesn't have to come out and defend him in space. And last year, 4 fouls against Purdue in their first matchup. He had 4 points. Second matchup, he had 15 points, but 3 fouls in a losing effort to Purdue. I think Purdue can defend him just fine. I think it's actually a disadvantage that Indiana has to play another dominant big guy. No one stops Zach Edey. Not Jackson Davis, not anybody. No one's stopping him. I think he'll make that very clear.
Yeah, he's giving up 7 inches to Edey. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, he's a good defender. He is a fantastic shot blocker, one of the best in the country.
Great defender,
sure.
Underrated defender to TJD, no question. Sorry, Kai, just looking at the
block rate, he's great.
It was the Illinois game, the Geronimo explosion. That was the inflection point I got excited about.
That was a good game by Indiana. Yeah,
but then Geronimo got hurt, so that's kind of a key storyline here. I think with Geronimo back, you feel really good about Indiana maybe being a blast off type of candidate, but without him, it's tough to really make the case. You're right, given what they've done, with and without him the last few weeks.
I wanted to look back at Edey's stats. He had 10 and 11 and 4 blocks against Indiana last year in 21 minutes, and he had 12 and 9 in 25 minutes. Picked up 2 total fouls in that span.
That's relatively solid containment of him.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
If he's scoring fewer points than he played minutes, like that's almost rare for him at this stage.
I can't believe he doesn't foul. He doesn't foul. He has more block shots than fouls.
He just didn't have to. He just has to stand there, and he's very smart.
Yeah.
He's a smart player.
Matt, are you going to be one of the grumpy? Purdue. He swings his elbows in the post and it rips people's heads off. How is that allowed? No, I think he's just making a totally normal post move.
I actually just watched the Shaq documentary on HBO, and there's a whole segment of that where they talk about the officiate. They bring in real officials and they break down how it was impossible to referee a guy like that. I just don't. You don't know how to referee that. I don't know if there's any way to call that. I don't see any fouls there, Jim. I just see a really big individual. There's a lot of contact. Deciphering what's a foul, what's not, I have no clue.
The response I hate most, and Giannis gets this all the time in the NBA, is how are you supposed to guard him? That's the point. He's too good to be guarded. Like you don't get to you don't get to normalize because it's hard to guard him. Like that's just how it works. Yeah. You have a guy that's that dominant. If you can't hang on his arms, or he gets kind of nudged you out of the way with the elbow, like you just have to find a way to not let him ever get a catch or something like that. You don't get to have a way to guard him that's outside the rules for everybody else.
Yeah, we've already made like the Lou Alcindor rule changes, the Shaq rule changes. Like we've already done that for the big guys. So at this point, if you can't guard them, I'm sorry, they're just too big and too good, and that's part of the game.
I will say, I bet he gets called for 3 seconds in the lane at least once in this game.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. At assembly.
It sometimes take a while to make a move.
Yep.
Any camps out down there. All right. We got Hilton Magic, the host of this next breakdown. Always one of the favorite rivalry games of the season. Kansas going to Iowa State. Rematch of a barn burner in Fog, in which Iowa State almost came away with the victory, but fell short. And now Iowa State really back against the wall after a demoralizing collapse at home. Can they get off the mat, Mr. McKeon? You mentioned here, Kansas has won 7 straight against Iowa State, including 3 straight in Hilton Coliseum. So the Hilton Magic has not been present the last 3 times these teams have squared off there.
Yeah, I think Kansas is awesome. I think they're the best team in the Big 12. I think Iowa State has a real chance, though, to beat them. They almost beat them in Allen Fieldhouse. like I said, I love this Iowa State team. They just defend their butts off, and their effort can defeat any team in the conference, any team in the country, frankly. At Hilton, I lean their way, especially after a loss.
Yeah, this is the ultimate like gut check for Iowa State. Like they were shell shocked in that second half after they lost. Like their offense completely stalled to a halt. It was like, all right, Caleb Grill, can you make a 9th and 10th three with a hand in your face? that was like all they were doing down the stretch against Texas Tech. Now you have to turn around and play Kansas. And Matt, we talked about how we kind of like Kansas more on the road because you don't have to cover bigger numbers. You just have to win. And typically Bill Self's pretty good at just winning. They did it at Kentucky last weekend. I think Kansas wins. I think Iowa State, it's going to take a little bit to recover from the haymaker they just took to the gut.
I agree. The Iowa State offense looked like the Iowa State offense we thought we'd see preseason, which is like, man, who's scoring for this team? It's kind of like, oh yeah, we were reminded about what we thought of this team's offense back in November in Texas Tech second half. That's my concern. Matt, I think Goodman talked about that on the After Dark too. I think he had a good point there.
Matt, what do you think of Pat's point in the chat here? Iowa State collapse could be like Louisville's collapse against Zion, where it just led to a real spiral.
Oh yeah, and the whole thing just collapses. And it hurts more at home too, right? That's what it just kills you because you have like such a great home atmosphere, and then the deflation balloon just.
Yeah. Fortunately, the Iowa State collapse was not at
road.
home.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's right. It was at Texas Tech. Still, they need the Hilton Magic here will be put to the ultimate test. Like you gotta lift your boys, Ames. Lift your boys. They're on the mat. Get them up here.
Lift your boys.
Lift your boys. Hoist them. Kai, Gonzaga, St. Mary's. I know we have basically drawn our line in the sand that we are Team Gonzaga in this stupid fictitious feud that we're going to create for conversation. I cannot believe St. Mary's is going to be laying, I don't know, 6?
Five per KenPom.
To Gonzaga.
It's like 3.
It'll be 3.
It's probably closer to 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Gonzaga has dominated St. Mary's historically, but that narrative has starting to change. And certainly this season, it's basically it's moved hasn't changed yet. So Kai, it sounds like you're riding with the Ziggy Zags here.
Yeah. If you give me a spread over 3, I'll take Gonzaga. I love St. Mary's. I love watching them play. St. Mary's lost New Mexico. They've lost to Colorado State at home. I think Gonzaga this guy is clearly way better than both those teams. St. Mary's hasn't beaten a team in the top 25 in KenPom this year. I love St. Mary's, but Gonzaga is very, very good. They're still capable of winning this game.
Yeah, the discipline of St. Mary's that kind of just like out executes everybody should help. But I think Gonzaga's offense is good enough to score against St. Mary's defense. And I think almost no one else in the WCC is. Mm-hmm. Like that defense is just so sound that you need individual talent to overwhelm it with also a coherent scheme. That's my shot at Pepperdine. Like, yes, you have the individual talent, but not the coherent scheme to do it. And Gonzaga can do that. I'm highly leveraged on this with a almost 25-1 St. Mary's to win the WCC because I have it parlayed with Houston. So please don't lose the American Houston. But so I probably will sit this game out, and then I'm going to try to figure out if St. Mary's wins, great. Then I'll let it ride, and then I probably have to figure out some sort of hedging strategy if Gonzaga wins. I think St. Mary's might nip it at home, Matt. But yeah, if this is 5, of course you have to bet Gonzaga.
I can't believe I'm being like the anti-St. Mary's guy here, but you do look at their wins. Okay, you're right. Haven't beaten a team inside the KenPom top 25. All of their wins too, very favorable schedule spots and or time of season, right? Like getting a week off before you go to BYU. They squeak one out there. And that really to date has been their best win before
San Diego
State, right? So you're right. There are some questions I think St. Mary's needs to answer. I don't think they're an emphatic top.
Don't forget the North Texas game that boosted them 30 spots in KenPom.
Correct, which was in November. Yeah, they scheduled very well. They brought Oral Roberts, Vermont, North Texas, Hofstra to their building at the right time of the year. Got a flu-ridden team, injured, etc. So
now they play fantastic basketball. They're so fun to watch, and they're disciplined as heck. But yeah, Jim mentioned it. Gonzaga can score on anybody. It's going to be just a totally different test.
I want to see the one time we go through a team's wins and Matt's like, here's why these wins are better than the schedle shows.
I'm always against the grain. Hey, maybe I'll do that here in this last game. I might do that in this last game with just a subtle an undercard matchup between Duke and North Carolina. I will say this is probably the least excited I've been for a Duke UNC game in a few years.
just because of a top 25 team.
Yeah, it's just like, okay. Talent's obviously there. The cachet's there. I get it. It's always Duke UNC. It'll be fun. I think the key story
fans say this rivalry's dead, by the way, Matt. There is no rivalry. UNC fans, there's no more rivalry.
Yeah, because they killed it last year. They assassinated it last season. I actually buy that. They have the right. When you do what they did last season in the highest of leverage spots, not once but twice, at some point you have to give like 10 years of runway just to say whatever they want to say. And I think that's fair. I have to tip my cap to them. But you also crumbled in the biggest spot against Kansas, so you have nothing to show for it. Ha 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 ha. Okay. Duke hosting UNC off a nice win against Wake, I guess. I thought Wake competed in that game though, Kai. Jeremy Roach is back for Duke. He means a lot. He's good. Talked about how Duke is, I don't know, there's signs of improvement, but the roster has still been in flux for most of the year. On the other side, I still don't trust UNC's backcourt. I haven't all year. And the frontline battle is going to be interesting, right? Bacot versus Filipowski and those younger bigs, and young big and then old big and Ryan Young. What gives here?
How about this? UNC's beaten one team in the KenPom top 50. It was Ohio State, a team that's outside of the tournament right now.
In overtime, probably should have won that.
It took a 70-foot pass, buzzer beater, Pete Nance. Gosh.
Bad. Now, I was in Portland. I went to Portland. They should have beaten Iowa State. They should have beaten Alabama, but they didn't. And that's a credit to how bad their guards are in crunch time. So yeah, maybe that'll be a huge problem here. I think Duke without Whitehead is still an issue. Duke kind of controlled Wake backdoored that cover, but I think that's kind of an issue still. The lack of depth. If you give me 4 with UNC, I'm probably going to take them, even though it's obviously Duke Carolina and the rivalry kind of trumps everything here, Jim.
Yeah, I think 4 is a little too many. I think as frustrating as Carolina has been, I think they might still be a little bit better than Duke, given where Duke is at right now with no Whitehead and Lively still kind of getting his sea legs under him as a more steady piece of the rotation. And Matt, we can't forget that Caleb Love has big games against Duke. He had the one stinker last year at home where he had 8 points, but then it's been 22, 28. And then his freshman year, he was bad, except when he played Duke, he had 25 and 18. Those were his 2 season highs were both against Duke. He does seem to rise to the occasion in big spots. So as much as I think he is maddening, I could see him having a really big game here. I actually do lean towards the heels in a difficult spot at Cameron.
I am so torn in this game. I haven't had a worse read on this game in a while. I kind of think Duke wins it. But it's going to be an ugly game, and I think it's going to be largely a function of UNC helping them get there. I feel like Love is just going to have a stinker here. If UNC plays well because RJ Davis rises to the occasion, he's the one who always scares me. Even though Love's been the one historically who has killed Duke, I still get more scared of RJ Davis in those big moments. And Jeremy Roach, healthier. I think he can be the best card in this game. We've seen him do it at the brightest lights, the biggest stages before. Just when he's at his best, when he's at his healthiest, he's a different player. Starting to see some evidence of that come to fruition recently, but we shall see. Should be a fun one. That is all we have for today's presentation. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, before we sign off here on this live show? How did the link work, by the way? Where are we at with that? Did we troubleshoot all the tech issues, or no? Is there a kind of rogue link out there in the ethos?
There's another link that has to be sorted, and I think I know why it didn't go there. It's a whole behind the scenes drop down menu thing I chose. We'll find out next week, because if you can't practice going live because you go live when you do. So unfortunately, it's a touch and go process.
Yeah, must be good time travel. We have not gotten there yet on technology. Until next week, same time, presumably. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy college hoops. And we are into February, the dog days of conference play, as March climbs nearer and nearer. Take care.